The valet takes your keys without meeting your eyes. In the 4 seconds between the curb and the ticket, he has already decided how much you are worth. Level 1. The beater. Down here, the car is just transportation, a machine that starts most mornings. And down here, you learn the first law of the road. People read the metal before they read the man. Watch what happens at a green light. If you hesitate for 2 seconds in this car, the horn behind you arrives instantly, loud, and without a trace of patience. Psychologists actually measured this in 1968. They stalled cars at green lights and counted horns. The cheap car got blasted. Many drivers never honked at the luxury one at all. The car is a uniform you cannot take off. Strangers use it to guess your income, your discipline, even your intelligence, all before you have said a single word. On a first date, this car arrives before your personality does. Your date watches from the restaurant window, and the story they tell themselves about you is already being written. Average age, U.S. cars on the road, 12.6 years. Here is what the judgment misses. The average car on an American road is not new, not leased, not shiny. Half the country drives something close to this level. Police notice this car too, but not the way you fear. Broken taillights, expired tags, and worn tires give an officer a legal reason to stop you anytime. Even the repair shop reads the car. Quote, studies show mechanics price the same job differently depending on what you roll in driving and how much you seem to know. What looks like a loser's car is really zero debt rolling. But the ledger tells a quieter story. This embarrassing machine is often the only car on the block that is fully paid for. The judgment is loud. The math is silent. Run the honest numbers on the ugly car. Liability-only insurance, no payment, cheap parts. Total yearly cost, a fraction of what the average driver burns without noticing. So you get treated as invisible, and invisibility stings. That sting is the exact pressure this entire ladder is built on. The next level is what most people do about it. Level 2, the payment trap. The sting of being overlooked has a retail solution, and the dealership knows it. This is where the average person walks into a showroom and buys respect on a 72-month plan. Suddenly the world warms up. The neighbor waves. The valet parks you in front. A new SUV in the driveway reads as success, and everyone treats you accordingly. Average new car transaction price, $48,000 USD. What the neighbors cannot see is the sticker. The average new vehicle in America now costs more than many people's annual take-home pay, and almost nobody pays cash for it. The respect arrives instantly. The bill arrives monthly. This is the largest recurring payment in millions of households after housing, and it renews itself every time the trade-in itch returns. New car loans at 84 months. 1 in 10 of new loans. To keep the monthly number swallowable, lenders simply stretch the calendar. 8-year car loans, once unthinkable, are now a standard menu item at the finance desk. Meanwhile, the asset itself is dissolving. The SUV loses value the moment its tires touch the public road, and it keeps losing value every single quiet night in your driveway. 5-year depreciation. Average new vehicle. 45% of purchase price. The numbers are brutal and boring. 20% of the value evaporates in the first year alone. By year 5, the proud new SUV is worth less than half what you paid. Then comes the trap inside the trap. Traded in early, and the leftover loan follows you, rolled quietly into the next car like a stone sewn into your coat. Average negative equity at trade-in, $6,100 owed above the car's value. This is not rare. Roughly 1 in 4 people trading in a financed car owes more than the car is worth, and the average hole is thousands of dollars deep, and the warmth has a half-life. Within a year, the SUV is just your car, the neighbors stop noticing, and the only thing still fresh is the payment. So people treat you better at this level, and they genuinely do. You simply paid for the treatment with your future, $700 at a time, for most of a decade. $737 a month invested at 8%, 40 years. $2.3 million future value. One more number before we climb. Invest that average payment instead, at ordinary market returns, for a working lifetime, and the driveway decision quietly becomes a multi-million-dollar decision. Level 3. The status lease. One rung up sits the entry luxury badge, the 3 Series, the baby Benz, the borrowed crest. This level is engineered for exactly one purpose: maximum perceived wealth per monthly dollar. Now the valet keeps your car by the entrance, where it advertises the restaurant back. You have become free marketing, and free marketing gets warmer smiles and faster tables. The dating effect is measurable. British researchers photographed the same man in an ordinary hatchback and a Bentley. Rated by strangers, his attractiveness rose with the car, not his face. There is a name for this level on the internet: the 30,000aire. $600 of it is due on the 1st of every month, respect on an installment plan. Traffic officers read this level differently. Insurance data shows the most ticketed cars in America are exactly these: loud, sporty, leased, and driven like the payment is chasing them. Insurance companies read this level without romance. Sporty entry luxury cars carry some of the highest premiums on the road because actuaries know exactly who buys them and why. Luxury brands, share of new cars leased, 50% of deliveries. Here is the secret of the entry luxury lot. A huge share of these badges are not owned at all. They are rented 36 months at a time, then returned. Crosswalk study, University of Nevada. 3% yield odds per $1,000 of car value. Status changes the driver too. In a crosswalk study, the odds a car yielded to a pedestrian fell 3% for every extra $1,000 of the car's value. At the office, the badge whispers upward. Colleagues assume the promotion is coming. Managers assume you can absorb responsibility. The parking garage becomes part of your resume. What looks like young money rising is really a 36-month costume, but strip the emblem and look at the paperwork. Nothing at this level is an asset. It is a costume with a drivetrain, and the rental fee never stops. None of this makes the treatment fake. Doors really do open, dates really do lean in, clients really do call back. The question is, who is paying for the applause? Because while you perfect the illusion of wealth at this level, the people with actual wealth are doing something that will genuinely confuse you. They are driving down the ladder. Level 4. The Millionaire's Pickup. Now we cross into strange territory, the level nobody photographs. Here sit the people who could buy the dealership, driving vehicles that valets park in the far corner. Researchers surveyed over 10,000 American millionaires and asked what they drive. The answers were not German or Italian. They were the most boring badges on the road. Best-selling car in history, 50 million plus Toyota Corollas sold. The most purchased car in human history is not a status symbol. It is the appliance the wealthy keep choosing precisely because nobody at the country club will ever mention it. Sam Walton, at the time the richest man in America, drove a 1979 Ford pickup with dog cages in the bed. Reporters kept asking why. He kept looking confused. He was not an outlier. The pattern repeats at the very top of the pyramid, where the car budget becomes a rounding error and the badge stops meaning anything at all. The logic is cold. When your wealth is verified by bankers, lawyers, and the Forbes list, a car has nothing left to prove. Signals are for people still auditioning. Median price millionaires paid per car. $31,367 most recent purchase. Thomas Stanley spent decades studying quiet fortunes. His finding still shocks people. The median millionaire's most recent car purchase would barely turn a head in a grocery store parking lot. So how does the world treat this level? Badly, honestly. Slow valets, skeptical hostesses, hesitant sales staff. The millionaire next door gets the service of the median customer. Ask a private banker how they spot real money walking in. The answer repeats across the industry. Be polite to the person in the golf shirt who parked the old truck outside. And they accept the trade gladly. Every ounce of respect they surrender at the curb compounds in a brokerage account instead, where nobody can see it and nobody can repossess it. What looks like just an old Camry is really 8-figure net worth. This is the central inversion of the entire ladder. The road shows you thousands of cars every day, and the ones shouting wealth are usually the ones that have none. Remember the honking study from the bottom of the ladder. The millionaire gets honked at too. The difference is that the horn costs them nothing they are still paying for. Level 5. The business tool. Here the ladder bends, because now the car stops being an ego purchase and becomes an instrument. At this level, professionals choose vehicles the way surgeons choose scalpels, for effect on the client. A realtor showing million-dollar homes cannot arrive in a dented hatchback, and cannot arrive in a Lamborghini either. The car must whisper success without shouting commission. Every client-facing trade converges on the same quiet middle. Lawyers, advisors, agents, and consultants all buy from a narrow band of cars chosen to reassure rather than impress. Watch a construction site owner arrive in a working pickup and a developer arrive in a spotless one. Same truck, different message, both chosen deliberately for the men writing checks. There is also a reason the accountant approves. A vehicle used for business becomes a deductible tool, and the tax code treats heavy SUVs with unusual generosity. Section 179 Vehicle Weight Threshold. 6,000 pounds gross vehicle weight. This is the famous loophole. Vehicles over 6,000 pounds qualify for accelerated write-offs, which is why so many small business owners suddenly discover a deep love of enormous SUVs. Clients read your car exactly like the valet did, only with money on the line. Too poor and they doubt your competence. Too rich and they doubt your invoice. University of Helsinki driver study. 1,892 drivers profiled. Science has even profiled the drivers. A Finnish study of thousands found the men most drawn to flashy German sedans scored higher on stubborn, disagreeable, and self-centered traits. So at this level, you learn to dress the car for the audience, the same way you dress yourself. The vehicle becomes a business card with a windshield. And once you can afford any car but choose strategically, you have crossed an invisible line. The next level belongs to people who signal wealth by refusing to signal. Level 6. Quiet money. Old money has its own dialect, and it is spoken softly. At this level, the cars are expensive, but only to people who already know exactly what they are looking at. Think of the 60-year-old Land Cruiser at the lake house, the ancient Volvo wagon with a sailing club sticker, deliberately unremarkable machines, owned by unmistakably remarkable balance sheets. Restored vintage Ford Bronco. $150,000 plus typical Restomod price. Do not mistake shabby for cheap at this altitude. The battered-looking vintage trucks of this class are often six-figure restorations, humility carefully built to order at supercar prices. Economists call it counter-signaling. When your standing is secure, looking ordinary becomes the quiet flex, because only someone untouchable can afford to be mistaken for nobody. The quiet level even has its own accessories. A canvas dog bed in the trunk, a faded parking permit, 20 years of club stickers. Time is the one thing new money cannot buy. The public treats this level like the middle class. The people who matter treat it like royalty. Club gates open, private bankers call back, because insiders read the code. The tells are small and deliberate. Insiders are not reading the badge. They are reading the zip code of the parking spot, the age of the paint, the absence of effort. Ingvar Kamprad, worth tens of billions, drove his Volvo 240 for 2 decades and flew economy. Employees got the message without a single memo. Waste is the enemy. Buffett's daily driver. $45,000 Cadillac, kept for years. Warren Buffett kept his previous Cadillac for nearly a decade until his daughter talked him into replacing it. At the time, he was worth more than $60 billion. This is the deepest lesson of the quiet level. Once wealth is real, a car reverts to what it always was, a machine for moving, not a machine for meaning. Level 7. The supercar paradox. But wait, you ask, who is buying the Lamborghinis? Welcome to the loudest and least understood level, where the car is a business model, a rental, or a red flag. No vehicle changes treatment faster. Phones rise on every block, strangers challenge you at red lights, and police give the exhaust note their full professional attention. Exotic rental, Lamborghini Huracan. $1,500 per day, typical U.S. rate. Now, the uncomfortable arithmetic. A serious share of the supercars on your social feed are rented by the hour, props in a performance about a life nobody is actually living. The platforms made it worse. An entire economy now exists where the car is the product, the video is the storefront, and the debt is the inventory cost. Real owners face a different bill: insurance in 5 figures, tires that cost more than a used Corolla, and routine service visits with commas in them. Add it up honestly, and the machine consumes a professional salary just standing still. This is why lenders, not owners, hold title to so much of the exotic fleet. Follow the exotic a decade forward, and the glamour inverts. Most supercars end up cheaper than their loans at least once, stranding the third owner with someone else's dream. Meanwhile, the factory knows its real customer. The average buyer of a new Ferrari is not a rapper or a lottery winner. He is typically a business owner near 50, and at the absolute peak, the car is pocket change. Bugatti once profiled its average customer, and the machine turned out to be the smallest thing in the garage. Sophisticated observers know all this, which creates the paradox. To a banker or an acquisition lawyer, a founder in a new Lamborghini is not a success signal. It is a due diligence note. So the loudest car on the road earns applause from strangers and suspicion from insiders. The exact reverse of the old Volvo one level down. Treatment depends entirely on the audience. Level 8. The collector. Above the noise sits a level where cars stop being expenses at all. Here the garage is a portfolio, insured like art, stored like wine, and almost never driven. At this altitude, a car is bought at auction with a paddle, shipped in a covered trailer, and touched with gloves. The odometer becomes the enemy of the balance sheet. Classic cars, 10-year return, plus 185% Knight Frank Luxury Investment Index. The returns explain the gloves. Over the past decade, investment-grade classic cars beat fine art, jewelry and watches, quietly compounding while pretending to be a hobby. 1962, Ferrari 250 GTO auction record. $51.7 million RM Sotheby's, 2023. The trophies at this level trade like masterpieces. A single 1962 Ferrari recently sold at auction for more than the gross domestic product of some small island nations. Every collector dreams the same dream. The barn find, a forgotten masterpiece under a tarp bought from an estate for pennies and worth a fortune at auction. Storage alone is an industry. Climate bunkers, battery tenders, nitrogen in the tires, humidity logs. The cars sleep better than most people because they are working harder than most portfolios. How are you treated at this level? You are not judged by cars anymore. You are courted by auction houses, invited to concours lawns, and telephoned before the public ever sees the lot. Notice what changed. At the bottom, your car determined how strangers treated you. Up here, your reputation determines which cars you are even allowed to buy. This is literal policy. Ferrari's rarest models cannot be bought with money alone. The factory chooses its customers from loyal collectors, and rejection letters go out to billionaires. The signal has fully inverted. Money no longer buys the car. The car now verifies the money, the patience, and the connections. And still, one level sits above ownership itself. Level 9. The backseat. At the true summit of daily life, a strange thing happens to the driver's seat. It empties. The most powerful people in any city are almost never holding their own steering wheel. Think about what a chauffeur actually signals, not the car, the arithmetic behind it. This person's working hour is worth more than the cost of hiring someone to drive. Full-time private chauffeur. $75,000 typical annual cost, US. The math is simpler than it looks. A full-time private driver costs roughly what a mid-level manager earns. If your time compounds faster than that, the back seat is a bargain. This is why the S-Class is designed around its rear seat, why Rolls-Royce measures rear legroom before horsepower. In half the world, the owner has never sat up front. Treatment changes shape again. Doormen no longer judge the car because the car whispers institution. Hotels flag the plate. Restaurants hold the door open before anyone has stepped out. You see it at every gala. A river of black cars, indistinguishable on purpose, Because at this level, standing out to strangers is a cost, and blending in is the luxury. Average Rolls-Royce buyer age, 43 years old. Even Rolls-Royce has changed hands generationally. The average buyer is now in their early 40s, self-made, and orders the car the way you would order a suit, bespoke, and often chauffeur-driven. For some at this level, driving yourself is not just inefficient, it is a liability. Executive security teams treat a predictable man behind his own wheel as an unlocked door. Corporations formalize the whole thing. Car service, then dedicated driver, then armored vehicle, then the helicopter that makes the car irrelevant. Each rung is a line item in a proxy statement. Notice the punchline of the whole ladder forming. At the bottom, the car is your identity. At the top, the car is staff. The vehicle became an employee, which raises the final question of this climb. If the richest people barely drive, barely signal, and barely care, what does the very top of the pyramid look like from the road? Level 10. Unreadable. The last level cannot be seen from the curb at all. Here, wealth has detached from objects entirely, and the car question quietly stops meaning anything. The same person now owns all the previous levels at once. A ranch truck, a collection in storage, a car service on retainer. None of them is an identity. All of them are tools. Here is why the road tells you nothing up here. For the wealthiest households, vehicles are a rounding error, a sliver of 1% of what they actually own. Now run the ladder backward. The person for whom the car is the largest asset is signaling hardest. The person for whom it is the smallest asset signals nothing. For the median American household, vehicles are one of the largest assets they own, often bigger than every investment account combined. That is the trap the whole ladder is built on. So when strangers judge you by your car, understand what they are really measuring, how much of your life you were willing to park on the street for their approval. There is a final tell, and it is almost invisible. The truly unreadable never explain their car at all. No story, no apology, no flex. The subject simply bores them. Go back to that valet from the opening scene. He reads cars all night, and valets will tell you the pattern themselves. The best tippers usually step out of the plainest cars. Every observer spends 3 seconds on your car. You spend 3 decades paying for their glance, or 3 decades investing the difference. The exchange rate between those two numbers is your life. The people who understood this early are the ones you never noticed on the road, which was exactly the point. They were not driving to be seen. They were driving to arrive. So drive what you want, but know what it is doing. A car can carry you to wealth or perform it, and the road does not let you do both for long. Because the strangest truth on this ladder never changes. The car tells everyone how you want to be seen. The portfolio tells the truth about what you became. The next time a valet takes your keys, remember the 3 seconds. You cannot control the judgment. You can only control whether the judgment is expensive.